What's going on? Welcome back to the Garden by the Brook. Going to start today's tour off with a potato update. They are up, they're at them. They've grown so much that I've had to fill in the trenches that I buried them in a couple weeks back, and now I am hunting around for some dirt to hill them. So I want to give them as much room as possible to make them potatoes, so they need a little mound on them now to cover more of the stem. These are the Kennebec variety. Supposed to be a really solid white potato, good for frying and bacon, and I can tell you they're genetically really strong or a good fit for my garden, so pretty excited so far. At the end of the bed, we got a couple volunteer potatoes. These are a different type from last year. They're called Russian banana, and I've seen some YouTubers kind of hate on that variety, but they were tasty, man, and we got a lot of them. Moving over here, we've got our primary spring bed, which is chock full of stuff. Got a bunch of spinach on the end here, and it's a really hot day, so some of this stuff is wilting. We should have the shade cloth on, honestly. This is a nice bok choy that we have going. We actually just harvested this last night. Really nice. Got a purple one there. It's a little floppy, and then we got a bunch of heads of lettuce that we should start to take head by head, probably, because we're going to be putting tomatoes in here. Along the back trellis, we've got peas that are probably 4.5 feet tall now, just starting to flower. They need to hurry up and do their thing, though, because it's getting kind of warm out, and they're not going to be happy for much longer. So we'll pull them. Moving on from that bed, we have something I haven't really shown you guys yet, but here, let's take a quick pit stop. This is a mulberry tree that we have in a container in the middle of our garden for some reason. I don't really remember how we came by it, but maybe someday it'll make us berries. At the end of this bed, we've got the eggplant that we planted in the last video, or there was footage of me planting in the last video, and then we got the peppers here that were really sad and yellow when we put them in, and they have taken a turn for the better. They've got a lot of new growth, green color to the leaves. Hopefully they can pick up the pace and make up for lost time. Over here we've got some stuff in ground, kind of on the edge of the in-ground space. Got an eggplant there, and then we've got these peas, a different variety. They're a purple pea, got really nice flowers. Got a couple of volunteer garlics on the left, but now we're going to show you the 3 circular stone beds. We just transplanted a Jules Laverne, I'm not really sure on the pronunciation, some French scallop squash we put there, and then 2 winter squash next to it. That is a bed of garlic that's not doing so great, but here's the bed of garlic that is doing pretty great. Basically down to the size difference in the clove that I planted in the first place. Over here we got a potato from last year. I'm pretty sure I just didn't harvest. That's why it's so bushy and crazy. Hopefully more potatoes this year. And it's in between a couple of blueberries. This blueberry here is starting to set some fruit. I don't know if we'll get all that many, but it does have some on it now. Hasn't had much in past years. But there you go. A little shot of some berries coming in. Hopefully the birds don't get them. Turning around, we have the hardy lime and the seedless table grape over here. We've got a bunch of cardboard down, mulch, starting to really tame this area more than we have in years past. And eventually we're going to be building some kind of arbor or in-ground post situation, some kind of strong support for these guys to really help them take off on the edge of the garden. Back toward the interior, these are my squash that are farthest along so far. I'm like embarrassed to share them with you right now, honestly, because this footage is just a couple days old and they're already so much bigger. So stay tuned for the next tour. These guys are already much beefier. These are Castata Romanesco variety, a classic Italian heirloom that's known for being a pretty strong producer, and it makes a really delicious squash. And also recently transplanted, well, that's a volunteer borage that I left in as a pollinator friend, but these guys were recently transplanted. They are Waltham and, actually, sorry, they're Zucchetta. And then another French scallop squash in there as well. So some guys that will vine. That blank space at the bottom of the bed is going to be melons a little later on. This bed over here is chock full of volunteer dill. And it's got a bit of a garlic experiment going on as well. Some of them are kind of There's strong cloves that were planted this year. That's the ones we see right here. And then some of the ones more toward the camera right now were dug up and separated from garlic that was missed last year and then replanted. Up next, I'm going to show you a bed that's kind of in flux right now. It's got peas up the backside on a trellis. It's got our oldest tomato plants, our most mature tomato plants so far. They're doing great. It's got these really high posts that are going to make for a nice high trellis for these tomatoes. Then intercropped, and what will be removed soon is called yodfa. It's a nice brassica, kind of an Asian green, really nice. This is a floppy bok choy. It's a really hot day today. That guy's probably going to bolt, honestly. Here's another bok choy that we will pick soon, making more room for the tomatoes. Over here we've got a bit of a fail, honestly. It's cabbages that were put out too late, really, for us, and they're probably not going to do anything, except those ones on the end might. So that purple guy in the top left is a Chinese red cabbage. He might actually do something, and he is bigger right now as I speak than this footage reflects. Over here we got a plum update. I put out that video about how to spray for curculio. Turns out this particular plum tree, the skin on these plums does not want to take the clay. Everything else in my garden gets covered in clay so easily, including the leaves of this very tree. It's just for whatever reason, the smoothness of the skin does not allow the clay to grab very well. It's crazy. So the tree right next door is also a plum. It's the alderman variety. Different shape, red plum, and the clay sticks to it wonderfully. These guys, it's like, man, it's like pulling teeth trying to get the clay on. This variety, by the way, is called Shiro. It produces a bunch of nice yellow plums. The few that we've had in the past are absolutely delicious. So here's a shot of the alderman rather, where the clay goes on much more easily. You can see they're just more evenly coated. Or you could if the camera would focus. Down below the plum trees, we have strawberries, and we have picked our first couple of handfuls of them. They've been pretty sweet so far. We do have a leaf blight that we fight. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it did. And so we're trying to space them out more. We got that mulch down, trying to work on the airflow and the sunshine getting to them. But we had to put this bird netting on for sure, because in years past, we've just been pillaged. Right now, the enemy are the chipmunks. So trying to scare them away, trying to get our berries before they do. Back by the compost bins, we have all this nice comfrey serving as a pollinator beacon into our garden. This stuff is really spread around. It kind of has behaved like mint so far, and just popped up in places vaguely nearby where it already is. This nice flowering vine here is a clematis. Wanted to capture its beauty. Gonna end the video today with some flowers. Got a couple more coming your way after this guy. Over here in the perennial herb and flower garden, we have some chives right here that we ate many of. We got some daisies that we are native and we left in here. We've got a big yellow bearded iris that is getting a little out of its prime now, but has been very beautiful. Really impressed us this year. Just put it in last year. Over here we've got a massive poppy that has, wow, like 3 times this many blooms 2 days later as I'm doing the voiceover for this footage. Looking real nice in the sunshine. No complaints there. Poppies are cool. They're a favorite of mine. They have a really unique color that they add to the garden. So we got more blooms on the way. Looking forward to that. So as far as what we've been harvesting, it's been a lot of lettuce and dill so far. A couple bok choys here and there. Peas are just around the corner, so stay tuned. Thanks for joining us today. Go ahead and like to help us out, and consider subscribing if you want to see what we're up to. Peace.